Welcome back to another episode of the Barstoolers Premier League podcast. The headline of this week's Premier League action was VAR. The lads weigh in on their opinions. They also talk about the transfer window as it's coming to a close. The lads also review a handful of games including Leeds City, Villa Liverpool and the headline game of the weekend, United and Spurs. We hope you enjoy the show. Right, so the men are back bringing you another podcast. Connell's not here because, in his words, he was too emotionally charged after the United game that he couldn't have his opinions broadcast on the internet. So today we have myself, which is Michael, and then we have Ronan and James. James is back after a hamstring injury from last week, but he's fully match fit, ready to bring on the podcast.
Yeah, apparently Connell tested positive for terrible opinions on football. That's why he's not here this week, having to self-isolate for the minute.
Yeah, and it's a welcome self-isolation, unlike Thiago at Liverpool, but we can do without Thiago and we can do without Connell, you know?
Yeah, we're recording this now on the Tuesday, and we just found out 20 minutes ago that Thiago missed the game against Arsenal because he tested positive for COVID-19. So that could be a massive blip now for the pool for the rest of the season, him dying, but we'll see how things go.
Yeah, there's levels to us in United, though, like Pogba, literally just after coming back from 2 weeks of COVID-19, stick him right in the team, no fitness, there you go, proper order. We can do it without Thiago. Different levels.
So this week on the podcast, we're down a supporter group in terms of United, so you're just going to be bombarded with some Liverpool propaganda. So I think a good starting point for this week's podcast is to talk about the Liverpool-Arsenal game, which was on Monday night. Liverpool winning by 3-1 against Arsenal. Very impressive performance by Liverpool. To be fair, I expected them to concede a lot more. Didn't expect Arsenal to be as stinky as they were, but Liverpool, very dominant, owned the ball the whole game. Very professional performance, I have to say.
Yeah, Boston midfield. Don't think there's any questions. Liverpool deserving the win. Thought Gomez was very good coming back into the side after an injury. Obviously, Diogo Jota coming off the bench scoring the goal. Don't think there's any complaints in Liverpool. I know there was that one mistake from Robertson, but he made up for it with the goal. Fairly dominant performance overall from Liverpool.
Yeah, it was pretty standard. And I think we targeted Granit Xhaka so well. They're looking at Jorginho Arsenal. You need mobility in that midfield. You need to inject mobility. There's Xhaka is very gettable in the big games. He needs plenty of space on the ball, and when he doesn't have it, Liverpool's press is just relentless. And the one time didn't pay off for us, obviously, that Robertson mistake. But look, these things happen, and a fairly emphatic win for the pool.
Yeah, I think Robertson was. I think Van Dijk went to put his foot out for that. I think Robertson was just expecting Van Dijk to get to it, so it was kind of more a snapshot of just not to excuse mistake. But very disgraceful that Lacazette was rewarded for having a terrible shot on Alisson there. Alisson was doing the good thing as a goalkeeper, anticipating the shot, and just
I guess
getting murdered for getting punished even for good goalkeeping. It's shocking.
Liverpool were very lucky that Lacazette can't finish as well. He had two very good chances in the second half. Alisson was a doubt for the game by all signs of the reports. And if Adrian was in net, probably would have been a different outcome to the game.
Maybe he would have saved Lacazette's first.
Probably not.
Just being Adrian. Yeah, well, you never know.
Senor Flappy Hands.
Senor Flappy Hands is right.
I have one thing I was noticing. It's so different watching a game as a fan and then trying to analyse the game. Obviously, we'd see more good in Liverpool, and that people we try not to find the bad in it. But one thing that kind of annoyed me, it was towards the end of the game after Jota came on, it's just Salah. He can be very selfish. It's probably the only part of his game that I don't like. The ball, it was a nice one too. Firmino, Salah, Jota link up, and he just took it off Jota's toe.
Yeah, he came through him, he ran through him in that instance and just ruined the chance. But at least Jota got 3 good opportunities and put one in the back of the net. You never know, he could be an outside shout to get into the starting 11.
Yeah, and even on that, Salah still had a great game. He played a brilliant ball in second half. Cut back
to Jota, actually, wasn't it?
To Jota, yeah. Brilliant ball, and Jota probably should have scored that. And even for the Mane goal, out-muscled Tierney. Tierney, obviously brilliant player, but he's not a centre half.
Yeah, I think this could be the beginnings of the end of seeing him as left-sided centre half. To be honest with you,
I don't think. They'd be better off playing him as a left wing back and then having Bukayo Saka playing on the wing. it's baffling that you're not playing Aubameyang, who is one of the best finishers in the league, in his best position. It was like I was saying last week about Fabinho. Obviously, Fabinho played well at centre half. Aubameyang plays well on the wing, but you'd rather play him in his best position up front as opposed to sticking him out in the wing and having a pretty dog shit finisher and Lacazette up top instead.
Yeah, like that's the problem with Lacazette and having the Arsenal squad. You just have to shoehorn him in there, and Arsenal fans are starting to see the cracks at Willian. Like they thought they had some fantastic deal in Willian at like 200,000 a week on a free just because he put a few past Fulham. Willian got majorly exposed. He did absolutely nothing, and Pepe even more so. So Arsenal, for as good as Arteta has been, there is problems there.
Yeah, Aubameyang was anonymous all game. I think like going down that left side, the only person that was posing any sort of threat was Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He got down well for Lacazette. He got the ball in the box, and then there was another one that was, I think he might have been offside, but David Luiz thumped the ball over the top. He took down well, but he was the only threat down that Arsenal left-hand side. Like Arsenal were quite lucky to get the goal. It was good work by him, but if you think going down the left, you'd expect Aubameyang doing a lot more, but he was anonymous.
Yeah, like Maitland-Niles is very versatile. You think if you move Tierney into left back as he's meant to be, you could actually lose something because of how good Maitland-Niles is in that game. Whereas Bellerin on the right, you need someone on the right. Bellerin was a passenger, you know.
If you even watch I watched the Arsenal West Ham game last week, and Arsenal got an unbelievable amount of joy down that left hand side. Obviously, it's a different prospect playing against Trent as opposed to whoever West Ham are playing there. Obviously, he just does levels, but they were getting far more joy out of it. Whereas I think it was just Arsenal trying to find those pockets in behind, which it didn't seem to be doing. Obviously, it's a different game plan against Liverpool. West Ham aren't going to press you as hard as Liverpool, so Arsenal can try and hit you a bit more going forward, whereas it's kind of hard to find those pockets in behind when Liverpool are pressing you so hard.
Yeah, Liverpool pressed really well, and Trent was getting some serious balls in the box. Like he was whipping and he was causing Arsenal some amount of danger down that right side. And then Arsenal's full back on the other hand, Bellerin, 2 fouls throws in the game. Like, it's inexcusable in the Premier League. That's something you do at under 12s. Like, what is he at? He's a fucking idiot.
It was unbelievable. The second time he got called off for it, he turned around to the ref and said, "I've been doing this my entire life." It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's the beauty of us having no fans in the stadium. You get moments like that.
Yeah, it was a thoroughly professional performance from Liverpool. Start the season, 3 games, 3 wins. Yeah, very solid Liverpool performance. Now on to the next game. It was a bit of a shock game. It was West Brom and Chelsea. The game ended 3-3. Thiago Silva making his Chelsea debut as captain. Shocking. Absolutely disgraceful. A passenger in the game. Ghosted past. Still the best Thiago Silva performance in London was at Glastonbury with Dave. That's not what you want from a big wage centre-back in Thiago Silva, who's supposed to be one of the best centre-backs in the world. But he was dreadful.
To be fair, state of Chelsea's defence, they'd probably be better off sticking out like some glass to win there.
Honestly, like you think about the cash they're splashing, and I knew it was going to be problematic. Firstly, you could argue Leicester fans got the better deal out of offloading Chilwell when they have someone like James that can deputise, and now Castagna. But like 50 million for Chilwell, you're talking, and then Silva on a free, and their main problem was your defence last year. It's beggars belief what Chelsea are doing at the minute, and I think they're going to be found out big time. But like as you can see, if like Werner starts firing, and they're going to add more goals than Ziyech and Pulisic into the team, they'll be fine going forward. So maybe that could be a 3-3 turned into a 4-3 like second half of the season once those front 3 get kicking.
I only watched the extended highlights of this on Sky there yesterday. Werner was quite poor. Like he had a few very good chances and didn't score. Again, that's 3 games, no goals for Werner. In fact, his overall play has looked decent, but he had 2 or 3 very good chances in that match that he probably should have scored.
He should have scored 1 or 2, but you're thinking that he's playing on the left that game, and Tammy Abraham was playing for the centre. And Tammy's just not the player Werner is. He's not going to be near that first 11 for Chelsea. So, but like then again, Werner looked more dangerous when he was playing on the left. But it is West Brom at the end of the day.
Yeah, like a money move like Werner and Havertz. A game against West Brom, not the strongest team, really need to be impressing in that game. They haven't really shown anything in the first couple of games that warrant a move. Obviously, it's early in the season. It's different. The Bundesliga, the tempo is probably not the same as the Premier League. But when you're spending that much money, you kind of expect a player to adapt. I know Havertz is still young, but it's so much money being spent on a player that he just needs to adapt near instantly. Like when you think with Salah came in, obviously he had been in the Premier League a wee bit with Chelsea, but didn't get off the ground. He came back, he was flying then. Came back, the money moved from Roma, and he was guns blazing, getting goals. Like, that's what you want, Timo Werner and Havertz. You need Havertz to be in, creating all the chances. You need to be beating West Brom. They're a team that are more than likely going to be in that relegation battle. Like, these are Chelsea's games that they need to win, because against the top four, like if you think back to Liverpool last week, they pose no threat really. You think all these next games and all this money they spent, they really need to be winning games.
Honestly, and if they're going to disguise themselves as title challengers, that like everyone now sees that they're just not going to be that. But there's a lot of positives to take out of it from a West Brom perspective. Like if you think about Robinson, this could be his breakout season in the Premier League to at least get them that safety if he can keep firing like the way he did, because they're very well taken goals if you've seen them. Like,
yeah, they were
well taken goals, but West Brom are still struggling at the back. I think that's 10 goals conceded in the first 3 games.
Yeah, and that's Kieran Gibbs as well, with getting a stupid red card, saying you elbow James Rodriguez again. Like, and he's probably your most senior member of your back line there. Like, you've got people like O'Shea and stuff in there. So it's really not that convincing, but we'll see.
Yeah, Robinson, it's nice to see an Irishman getting off the ground early in the Premier League, like getting a couple of goals he did. Because he didn't really get that chance with Sheffield last year. We think McNusa and Billy Sharp getting ahead. He didn't really get a chance really with Wilder. So it's nice to see him getting a couple of goals in the Premier League. And it's good to see West Brom getting the point. Because I think we all think that West Brom, if you listen to our first episode, we all, I think, put West Brom in the relegation zone or in thereabouts. So it is good seeing them take points off a top side, and it's also good in the Liverpool sense as well, because taking points off a supposed title rival is also nice.
Well, it's got even, again, still think West Brom are going to go down, but they don't look anywhere near as hopeless as Fulham.
Yeah,
they're definitely a better side, and they're playing more exciting football. It's going to be tight down there. I don't know. West Ham don't look great either this season. Sheffield had a poor start. Still think they're going to go down, but obviously it's a good sign for them. It's probably not going to help the confidence they blew a 3-0 lead now.
Yeah,
but they'll probably take some. They'll take a lot. They'll take a lot of positives from the game. Like Slaven Bilic is a good manager, so it's different to Fulham. I'm not going to say and be like West Brom even are definitely going to go down. Like there's quality there. They get a good run of form. They could easily stay up.
They could Hammers looked down and out last year when you seen their fixture list that they had compiled. It was insane, their running, and they managed to escape it. To be fair,
yeah, and that was with David Moyes, who I don't think is anywhere near as good as a manager as Slaven Bilic.
Yeah, Bilic's very good.
Yeah, but that squad Moisey has is far better than that West Brom.
Far better,
so it's balanced out, But all we can safely say is that Fulham are nailed on 20th, and they had a banner in the stand there that just said full force. So they're just going down because of that very reason.
I think West Ham would be in big trouble. Obviously, talking about Chelsea again, they're looking at Declan Rice to complete their summer spending, but that's for another segment in the podcast. A bit of a shock result now was Leicester City and City. Leicester getting the win 5-2. Madness. I never would thought at the start of the weekend that Leicester were putting 5 past City.
Yeah, I think we all predicted Leicester to get a bit of a spanking in this match.
Yeah, I thought City were going to win 4-1. I thought it was going to be a fairly routine win for Pep's men, but it got slapped.
Yeah. Slapped. Massively found out in this game. And I think that the big take home from this is that defensive midfielders are coming under a lot of pressure now. You see Granit Xhaka at Arsenal. You also see Rodri at City. Like, he's no Fernandinho. I just don't think they're in the same caliber. I think he's, again, when you give him the space, he's easy on the eye. He's a nice passer. But Fernandinho is just that horrible prick that you need in the midfield. He'll just do anything. He'll scratch you. He'll do anything.
You need somebody who's going to be a bit of a bastard in there. Who's going to give going to win most of the tackles, but will leave some on someone, ruffle a few feathers.
Yeah, he'll throw you off your game. Rodri's not doing that at all anytime soon. So.
The main thing that came to mind with City's defensive performance, they were just so sloppy. They gave away so many stupid penalties. Mendy is a clown.
Yeah,
he is the shark man. All he can do is post on Twitter and Instagram, and he's won the World Cup. He's a fucking fraud.
first, the centre halves didn't do anything to worry me in terms of City's. Like, I don't think there was any Ake did anything particularly wrong himself. It was mostly the fullbacks. It was mostly the fullbacks, though. Yeah. They were just disgraceful. Like Mendy, everybody knows how bad Mendy is. Like, it's absolutely fraudulent that he's made to this level. Lad's got two Premier Leagues in the World Cup, and he's done nothing. And any time he's played, he's looked like the worst player on the pitch. He's got no coordination, and he's got no footballing IQ, especially in defensive situations like that. Yeah. Like the penalty gave away, no need to go in for that at all.
Yeah, like City's style of play has evolved in a negative sense at the start of the season. You're seeing De Bruyne come deeper, but like maybe that's for like lack of a striker. But Mendy was just ace for them in those few games at like 2 or 3 seasons ago when he was getting 3 assists against Arsenal. But he never had that defensive stability. I think they might go to Ake as a left back this season because he does play an left back for the Dutch. That could be an option when they get in Ruben Diaz, thanks.
Yeah, and Kyle Walker, another one, absolutely robbing the living. I don't think Cancelo's fish, but
yeah, he's not fit. But Cancelo, he's a very impressive player. I think once he comes back, he'll add that little bit of extra. Even though City, they don't need that little bit of extra because they're just class.
I was going to say they'd want to be playing him with spending 50 million on him, but I don't think they spent that much less on Kyle Walker. In fact, I think it was 50 million for him as well.
He hardly played last season because I remember getting Cancelo in the fantasy football thing, and he was going to be a machine, and he hardly played. He was so disappointing. Well, if he gets a good stretch of fixtures, he could be a serious player for City this year.
Yeah, and we may as well talk about the good things Leicester did. We kind of just talked about how bad City were. Leicester were brilliant. James Madison coming back, getting his first goal. I think it was in 18 games.
Oh, it was a class goal.
Jamie Vardy hat-trick showing,
Yeah, that Jamie Vardy second goal, if that's Messi or anyone, Neymar or people of that calibre, you're going insane for weeks, months.
It's unbelievable. That. This is a man who drinks like 5 Red Bull before a game. He shouldn't be as good as he is.
Coffees as well.
His pre-match routine is ridiculous.
Yeah, the age he is now and the sort of style he plays, like, I don't know how he hasn't slowed up.
In fairness, he only started his professional career at 26, so he's kind of making up for lost time.
Yeah, but even just like just the human body at that age, it's just slows down your physical. What you're able to do physically isn't going to be as good as what you're going to be in your 20s. But he's still that rapid player that everyone loves in the Premier League. Like I love Jamie Vardy.
Like he pulled up with like a tender groin at the end of the game. Like so, like there is inklings that like he is starting to deteriorate his body. But like Leicester need to go into the market for a striker. Like just be scouting this season and just pull out a massive signing. Like you can still play Vardy, you can play a 2 up top or something next season, but just to cement that like top 6, I think they could really go for top 6 this year.
Yeah, because they bottled it last year.
But it's just those that English trio in the attack for Leicester of Vardy, Madison, and Barnes has been so impressive the last season a bit. Especially like I know I've got a little bit of bias here with Barnes, him in my fantasy football team and all that. But I think he's brilliant. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good he is. Like, he just glides past players in the midfield. Finishing could do a bit of working on, but like it was pretty much him made the first penalty. He took it through a few City players and then played the ball through for Vardy. And then obviously there's nothing has to be said for Vardy or Madison. The two of them were just absolute ballers. So much fun to watch the two of them.
Leicester's team is just so solid. You think like a midfield of Ndidi and Tielemans. That's a solid midfield. Tielemans is a serious player, and Ndidi, he's probably due a big money move in the next year or two.
Literally, I was about to say, yeah, exactly. That's the only player that's at risk of moving. That's what's great about Leicester's team. They're so safe. Their players are great, but no team's going to want Barnes at the minute for a few years, I don't think.
Yeah,
not at the minute. And I know Madison was linked with United, but I think Madison, looking at the United situation at the minute, is probably not going to want to go there, especially if Leicester are pushing top
Bruno
4.
was an elite player, though. Once they Bruno in, like I wouldn't go as Madison. You're going to way better run of games as in Leicester,
Another game that we had predicted last week was Yorkshire teams, the Blades and Leeds, with Leeds coming up trumps in that game. Obviously getting the goal, Patrick Bamford, three consecutive games scoring in the Premier League. Who would have thought? Looking at him playing with Middlesbrough, he was tragic, and he was a man for missing a big chance in the Championship the last couple of seasons. But he found his feet at the Premier League level at the minute. Could obviously just be good form or whatever, good run of fixtures, but Leeds off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, I think the goalkeepers on both sides took centre stage in this match. I know there was just a Meslier made a great save in the first. I can't remember who it was from.
He made a very good save from Lundstrom.
Yeah, a fantastic save. I don't think he's new, is he? I think he was signed this season.
He played the back end of the championship after Casilla was suspended for his comments. And Casilla hasn't been able to get back into the squad. I think Casilla came in, Real Madrid player. He's going to be the star man, but Meslier, he's serious keeper now. He is
obviously doing well to keep him out. On Bamford again, might just be a good run of form, but obviously it's good.
He might be the Pookie of this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a good shout.
Yeah, that's actually very, very good shout. Rodrigo hasn't gotten off. Obviously, he wasn't going to be a man to be getting 20, 25 goals a season, but he probably needs to be. He's not the sort of out-and-out goal-getting striker. He sort of drops in, gets the passes. He didn't start the weekend, came on, started second half. Hasn't made a big impact yet in his Leeds career, but I've been impressed with him. Against Fulham as well, I quite like the way he was dropping in, getting past, giving 1-2s. He's not had a proper chance in front of goal yet, but I think he just needs one goal to get his confidence going, and he could be flying in the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think he was happy enough. Like, I was listening to Bielsa's post-match, and he wasn't very quick to praise Bamford. He was like, players can have those moments in the games because of our style of play and how it allows those big chances to be finished off. But he was had far more praise for Rodrigo, who was just linking up the play, looking tidy, looked like that key in the attack. He mightn't be getting the big numbers. Bamford might just steal a load of the numbers this season for Leeds, but do they really care? Probably not, as long as they stay up.
I think Bamford even said itself, the header he kind of missed behind it, kind of just came off his nose.
Yeah.
But even Rodrigo, he has played well. And to be honest, I think Bielsa probably didn't start him yesterday because he probably just didn't feel like it was the right game for him to be starting. And Sheffield are a very physical side. I don't think Rodrigo was that physical of a player. And just then on Sheffield as well, 3 losses, 3 defeats in 3 games. I don't know. I don't think there's much to be too worried about. I mean, they were missing 2 big players yesterday.
John Egan was suspended.
And Jack O'Connell was out. I think he just wasn't fit. I don't know what injury or whatever he had there. But Egan and O'Connell were the two main men at the back for them last year. Obviously, Sheffield only did as well as they did last year because of how good the defence was. I think going into, just after the restart, only Liverpool had conceded less than them at that stage. They end up shipping a few more goals after that. But I'd say once they get the defence sorted out, Sheffield will be fine.
It could be second season syndrome, and also a little anecdote on Jack O'Connell's iconic times when we got a taxi with his dad.
I forgot about that actually.
Yeah, that was huge. It could be a story for one of the next Barstoolers podcasts. Sheffield, they're going to have a massive problem going forward. They don't get goals from anywhere. You can't say, oh, he's going to get X-Men goals. Like Billy Sharp, finished. Mousset is tragic. Obviously, they were looking at Ryan Brewster, but even Brewster coming into the squad, he's quick player, skillful. He's not going to be the sort of player that he'd fit well into a Wilder system. You need someone like Olivier Giroud, just a big man up top, whip balls in, get the headers.
Oh yeah, if you look at Sheffield's 2 main strikers last year, they were Ollie McBarney and McGoldrick, and they're 2
but then the
strikers.
Common theme between those 2 are they're terrible at football. I think
a lot of love for our man Didsey, but yeah, he's not Premier
love
League.
For him as a guy, good Coventry boy, but absolutely not having him. But I think Wilder is very adaptable, good tactician. I think he'd be able to adapt the system if he was given the Brewster. But if you think about it, Michael Edwards is not in the position to sell, and they're going to add the buyback clause. It's just not very nice for Sheffield. Do you know what I mean? But they might just have to jump on that because it's second season syndrome, and they need those goals.
I think for Sheffield at this stage of them being in the Premier League, it's just them trying to consolidate themselves in the Premier League for 2 or 3 seasons and then try to build from there, which I think is a problem. A few clubs, if you look at Watford and Bournemouth, the 2 of them, I mean, they were both in the Premier League for 5 or 6 years. But for the most part, I know Bournemouth had 1 or 2 seasons where they kind of pushed top 10 but didn't really make it. But for the most part, both sides finished in the bottom half of the table, never really pushed anywhere near Europe or anything, which is what, if you're looking at the likes of, who was I thinking of now? Gone out of my head. But like that, if you had 3 or 4 seasons of Premier League to build on it, and maybe challenge for Europe, it's not saying you have to definitely get Europe, but maybe challenge for it at least. So it's just that first few seasons, it's just consolidating yourself. Brighton is who I was thinking of. Brighton now look a lot better, and they look like they're going to have.
They do, but then Brighton did the reverse, though. They did the reverse, so they had the approach. Now this has gone out of my head. Last manager, Irishman,
Houghton.
Chris Houghton. And now you've got Graham Potter. So they've gone for the progressive once they're established in the league. Whereas it was interesting to see Bournemouth, Watford, and now Wilder's Sheffield all trying this progressive approach. But then again, to varying extents, it worked and hasn't worked. Like Watford chopped and changed managers here and there. So like if you look at the underachievers in the league, Everton, like look how hard it is for them to get in the top 6 places, never alone, let alone Sheffield. So
Everton will really push for European spots this season.
Yeah, but like that, it's just, I think Sheffield will be fine. Sheffield will stay up, and I think from next season on, they'll kind of want to push on. I think they overachieved to a certain extent last year because they weren't really that good for going forward. It's just defensively they were so solid. I think that's just what's cost them towards the back end of the last season and the start of this season. But they'll be fine.
Now, this will be a game that Connell would have had a lot of interest in. And this game is going to sort of lead into our next topic. We're going to be talking about VAR so far in the Premier League. And VAR played a big role in this game, and it was United and Brighton. So obviously United winning in crazy circumstances, getting a penalty in after the game was done. So I was walking into town on Saturday afternoon, getting out a notification on Forza Football. Game done. Delighted. United dropping points. Then get a notification on Twitter, the fancy football Twitter. 90 minutes plus 10, Bruno Fernandes getting the goal. I thought it was some sort of typo. Like, the game was done. And then check on Twitter then afterwards that the penalty was given after the full-time whistle, giving United a win in a game that Brighton were very hard done by not winning that game. Very hard done by.
Extremely hard done by, although there were a lot of people who took issue with the penalty being awarded after full time. Firstly, it was a penalty, and I don't really have issue with that was awarded after full time, because if it was a penalty and United were robbed of that, a lot of people would be turning around and saying, like, oh, look at this penalty that wasn't given to us, the referee blew full time, why isn't VAR coming in this? So I think that was the right call. But like that, Brighton were excellent and absolutely robbed of 3 points, at least 1 point. Like, they did so well to get back into the game, and it was like the Chelsea game. Like, for the first 55 minutes of the Chelsea game, Brighton dominated, and then Chelsea got 2 lucky goals. They scored 1 brilliant goal, and then they got an extremely lucky goal from Kurt Zouma, took a huge deflection. But even after that, Brighton still controlled the game after that from Chelsea.
Yeah, you're talking about Trossard hitting the woodwork a couple of times in that game. Like, and I was saying the last podcast that I was on, I think I was worried about the firepower that Brighton will have this season. So you need to be putting those away, and there's not much you can do about that. But they are really hard done by, and you could argue that the penalty should have stood that Pogba gave away on Connolly.
Oh, absolutely should have stood. Like the referee came to the conclusion that was because Connolly initiated the contact. We came across him. It's forward play. He was just going into the box. He was making himself physical. He didn't want the ball taken off him. He was going to initiate contact, yeah, whatever. But Pogba still cleaned him out of it from behind. It's like, this was a big argument in our group chat during the week.
Massive.
Connolly was convinced, it's a contact sport. Connolly was looking for it. It was like, it doesn't matter if Connolly was looking for it or not. There was still contact there. And if you actually watch the replays back, you can see very, very, very clear contact with Pogba's right knee and the back of Connolly's legs that clearly made Connolly go over. Like, it is bizarre how the referee came to the conclusion that wasn't a penalty.
Yeah, yous are more like of the view that it was a stonewaller. I think I could see it given either way. But I wouldn't, if I was the referee, I don't know what he's thinking overruling his own decision. Firstly, you just make yourself look. And I don't know where he was in relation to the incident, so it is fair enough getting the clarity from it after the fact, but no, not for me overruling that, I have to say.
Think back to the previous weekend with Thiago and Werner. There was very little contact there. Obviously, contact is contact, and Werner went down, and there was a penalty, rightfully so. Pogba took Connolly out of it, and Connell was very adamant that this absolutely was not a penalty. And if that was given against United, like if that was Rashford and it was Ben White coming in doing that on Rashford. Couldn't be fuming if that wasn't given. He would be if I was a Brighton fan. Oh, he'd be bulling.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he'd be fuming, but like I think of all the penalties he got last season on the minimal contact on Bruno. Bruno goes down off like thin air nearly.
He's a shite bag.
Yeah, fair enough. But Connell, yeah, you can see where that's a penalty, and you can. But I don't know why you couldn't put those lenses on and see that at the weekend.
Did you see Bruno at full time? When everybody else was looking for the penalty, Bruno just went over, took the ball, and put it down the spot straight away.
You gotta love his ego. He's so calm, cool, and collected.
A very
calm, in fairness.
A very calm, cool, and collected goal was Rashford's goal. That was a class goal. Bruno ball forward, and Rashford does it all on his own.
Yeah, you might have think like that he overcooked it, but no, put it away.
Yeah, very good finish.
As was Mopé's penalty, absolutely, it's saucy, so saucy.
I hate that he had to eat his words, but it is hilarious the narrative there that he gave the crying eyes. Like I don't at the same time the state of him.
Yeah, and first, don't do that. Like 29 minutes into the game, they scored that penalty.
If it was 90th minute, if it was the 90th minute, and you get the
Mopé penalty. Oh yeah.
If he banged that in or just we chipped the stink of sauce off that goal was class though. But celebration, what are you at?
Yeah, and then another one. I'm convinced it was a foul on Lewis Dunk for the own goal for United's equaliser. I think there's a bit of pulling there from Harry Maguire.
I think that they're given, but remember that rule was introduced and there was a lot of inconsistency with it. Refs were given penalties and free sometimes, but in other times there weren't. So I think fair enough. The Maguire goal, but a bit of a mess.
Yeah, I'm not going to be too mad about it being given, but personally thought it was a foul. Again, it's another one where United maybe got a little bit lucky on the VAR front.
So, keeping on the topic of VAR, I have a stat for you lads. So far in the Premier League, in the 28 games, there has been 20 penalties, and 6 of them have been for handball. So if this trend was to continue for the rest of the season, there will be 292 penalties and 88 for handball. They're going to have to change the rule for handball. I think the most sort of shocking one was Eric Dyer's one against Newcastle. Oh, it was a disgraceful
Matt Doherty's one
penalty.
Was awful as well last week. Spurs are getting horribly hard done by.
Oh, shocking. It's like Liverpool got very lucky against Leeds. I think sort of the first instance really of me seeing this rule was the Champions League final when the ball sort of clipped up onto Sissoko. But like you're getting penalties for nothing, absolutely nothing.
Even that, like the Sissoko one, he gave it because his arm was in a natural position. Which also, this whole thing about what's in a natural position, that like they gave the Dyer one because his arm was up in the air. Which is like if he was standing on the ground, it's fair enough. That's in a natural position, but he was jumping for the ball. What do they expect? Do they just want Premier League players to jump like a fish now to go get the ball? It's ridiculous. When you're jumping up, you need a bit of leverage. He's half an inch away from that. He cannot get his arm out of the way. But like even at that, there's apparently the rule is if the ball hits the player on the sleeve or above, it's not a handball, which I think is why that's why the Diogo Jota goal wasn't overruled. I think it did hit Diogo Jota on the arm, but it hit him up on the top of the sleeve. Again, I touched upon it last week, the Gabriel handball. You could argue his hand was arm was in a natural position there, but the ball hit off his arm when it was going to a West Ham player. In my eyes, that's much more of a penalty than any other handballs I've seen in the Premier League so far this season. Like it's just baffling how they're making these calls.
So it's coming towards the business end now of the transfer window, and there's potential for clubs to be doing some massive signings. Obviously, it's the whole Jadon Sancho saga still on, but City finally got another, I say, premium centre back. They stopped with the whole chasing Koulibaly and they signed Ruben Diaz from Benfica. Any opinions on that, lads?
Well, I think it strengthens City. Like, this is the most expensive City signing of all time, isn't it? I think it's believed it could come in at a total of £65 million. But in the COVID climate, it's probably very incremental installments. But still an awful lot of money to be spending on City defence, where it could be method over personnel. Like, we still might be talking about City in the Champions League because of defensive errors in the centre-back area. So I just don't think he's going to have that Van Dijk impact on City. Well, it could be massively wrong. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one.
Yeah, it's just City again, just spending a load of money in defence. It's not proven for them to work in the past. I think the only one of those defenders that City spent big money on that have actually impressed me is Laporte. Because everybody knows Laporte is good. He's not really made any awful mistakes since he's went in, but the likes that he have brought in, like the likes of Otamendi, John Stones, he spent 50 million on. Again, I was saying Kyle Walker, Benjamin Mendy, like obviously they're fullbacks, but like they've spent a lot of money on the defence. They've probably spent as much on the defence alone as Liverpool have since Klopp came in.
I think they've spent over 500 million on defenders since Pep's taken over.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know who's scouting these players, but it's obviously not working.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that if you've spent 500 million, that you're still trying to strengthen that position. 500 million they expect nailed on. You've got serious left back, right back, 2 centre backs, and a goalkeeper. Over 500 million. That's what
they got a good deal in Ederson. Though.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. Because 35 million, but it looked like a lot at the time. Because that was before Kepa and Alisson and stuff. So even that at the time looked like quite a bit. But that's sort of their keeper situation out. But Kyle Walker's been all right. He's not coming good now. It's just there's a lot of problems there. Cancelo needs to gel. Laporte's good. There's a makings of a great back line there. But if it was any other football club buying Stones 50 million, selling them off for like 20 in this climate, like they'd be in big trouble.
Mangala, another one that came in, they spent a load of money on, it did nothing.
Sanya, all these boys, like,
yeah, it's stupid money. Another defender got the deal over the line, and not long after the podcast finished recording last week was Semedo, another Portuguese man to Nuno's team. I think Wolves are now one player off having a full Portuguese starting 11. I think with Jota there, they would have it, but obviously Liverpool man now.
Yeah, I believe they have like 8 at the minute in the squad or something. Maybe that was counting Jota, so maybe, yeah, it's bang on 8 or something. So, yeah, I think Marcel's Brazilian, and then one of the other ones is Brazilian, so they're at least nearly Portuguese speaking, which is insane. You know, imagine like English not being the first language in that dressing room. It's just
a bit mad, isn't it?
A bit mad, like.
I have nothing to add to this bit here.
Yeah, just looking at your own.
Yeah, expecting some criminal thoughts, but
I have no hot takes on Portuguese players playing in the Premier League.
But
I just know Semedo, he's a serious player on FIFA. Class on FIFA. He's got the pace, he's got the skills. He's going to be so expensive in Ultimate Team now with FIFA coming out in the next week or so. Oh, can't wait.
And of course, that means Traore is going to be in his more natural, gifted position. You can use him off the bench. You can bring in Neto and Podence. And there's Wolves have a lot more options now that they fill this hole that's Doherty's left. So good on them.
It'll be interesting to see though now with like the transfer window obviously was longer than usual given the whole circumstances of the global pandemic. But I like having the window run into the start of the season. I think it adds a bit more drama. And I know obviously United, they still have the whole transfer saga. They will, they won't they? They're still looking at...
won't.
I don't think they will either. I think it's too far on in the window. Obviously, Connell might know a bit more about this because he'd be reading into it more. But I just think it's too far on now in the window to be spending that sort of money. I think they'll get Tellez done in the next week. But Sancho, here's a break to United fans. He's not coming.
Yeah, excluding Diaz at City, I don't think there's another 50 or maybe 60 plus million player in the league left. Like, I think all the big deals are done.
I think, though, if there is going to be one more big money signing, I think it'll be Rice to Chelsea, Declan Rice.
But would Rice cost more than 50 at the minute? Like,
yeah.
Havertz 70?
I think Jorginho is being linked to Arsenal as well. Especially if Declan Rice comes in, I don't think there's any place in the side for Jorginho.
No, definitely not.
I heard a bit of a mad one. I don't know how true this one is, but I heard Lamptey, the Brighton fullback's been linked with a move to Bayern Munich for 10 million.
Hardly already. Like
10
I don't
million.
know.
I don't think he would. Even he don't think he would unless he was guaranteed starting. I mean, he's very good, but
like Davies, you're not going to be getting in of the, well. Who's playing right back?
other side.
Yeah,
other side. Kimmich plays centre mid because he's better there than he is a fullback.
I think
I think Pavard, but
yes,
he's been man.
Has Pavard been awful since he's come? I don't watch any Bundesliga.
I don't even watch any Bundesliga either myself.
I think Pavard's preferred position is centre half as well, so maybe they're trying to move him in there instead and have someone else playing at right back. I think Kimmich plays now in the number 6 now as well. So they don't really have an out-and-out right full at the minute.
But look, we do love the transfer obsession, but I do think not a whole pile to talk about this week in the way of transfers. Like, a lot of it will be speculation and stuff. But I think by and large, teams are settled enough.
We'd love to be bringing you more transfer news.
We would.
But unfortunately, the clubs aren't doing the business.
Great news is that Loris Karius has been shipped off somewhere else again.
He's gone.
How are people still signing this man? What has he ever done in his career to warrant a move anywhere?
I will get too angry if we start talking about this man. So anyways, on to our predictions. So in terms of our leaderboard, Ronan is dead last with 7 points. Connell is just above him on 8. Myself is in the second place position with 10. And somehow James has 12. The man who said that there was going to be 7 goals in the Wolves game at the start of the season is the most accurate so far in terms of his predictions. So again, we bring you another 5 games for our predictions. Connell sent on his predictions to me as well. So let's get into it. So the first game we have is Chelsea Palace, and I have a draw in that game. I think it'll be 2-2. Connell went for a 2-0 Chelsea win. I think this will be a very interesting game. Palace obviously getting the win against United. Grand start to the season, and Chelsea are muck at the back. Townsend made a good start, so could be interesting.
I've gone for a 2-1 Palace away win. I think Chelsea are just trash at the minute. I think their confidence is probably on the floor. And Palace, more unlucky tonight. I watched the Palace and Everton game there at the weekend as well. I thought they were very unlucky not to get something out of that. Zaha has started well. Eze looks very good. So yeah, I think Palace are going to nick a win there.
Right, well, I've gone for a 4-1 Chelsea win. And that is based off nothing rational because of how well Palace have been doing under Hodgson. The organisation's good. They're defensively solid. They've got a consistent team.
Still Vegeta coming out here again.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep predicting Chelsea to be high scorers because I have Werner in the FPL and I need that man to do something ASAP. So that's my reason.
The next game on our predictor radar is Leeds United versus Manchester City. I think City will bounce back. They'll win 4-1 this game is what I'm saying. 4-1 City win, fairly comprehensive City dub. Connell went with a similar enough prediction to me with 3-1 City, so in terms of me and him, very similar.
I've gone for a 4-2 victory for Man City. I'm going to go out and come out with my controversial opinion that I came out with in the first week, that City are good at football and are probably going to score a few goals here. That's my top expert analysis on Manchester City.
Very well. I predicted City to draw 2-2 Wolves last time I was on, so I'm going to predict another 2-2 with Leeds, only because they're at Ellen Road. Bielsa is the man himself. And yeah, it's good to have a bit of City agenda at the minute. Maybe they'll spend another 200 million or something if they get a late draw here.
Another game now. It's going to be deep in the hearts of the three boys here. Liverpool Villa. I just think Villa are going to get thumped. 5-0 Pool win, very comprehensive dub for the boys. Connell also went with 4-0.
I've seen James's prediction for this match. I'm not even arsed at this stage with his predictions.
What's your prediction, Ronan?
I've gone for a 2-0, comfortable 2-0 victory. I just don't think we're going to score that many.
I have gone for a filthy 7-0 bashing, because if I'm still top of this predictor game, what are you doing? So I'm just going to be outrageous.
You're not top because you're getting the scores right. You're top because you're predicting the right teams to win.
Listen, last week I celebrated United 3-2, and then I also found I was behind James, so I was quickly taken off my high horse. Probably the game of the weekend, this next one is Manchester United versus Tottenham Hotspur. I have a 2-2 draw in this game. Neither team have lit the league alight since the restart. Obviously, Son in the bin now with an injury. Connell also went with a draw, but just 1-1 for his beloved United.
For second week in a row, me and you have agreed on a scoreline here. Make sure I've both gone for 2-1. pretty similar reasons. I think both sides are fairly shaky at the back, and both sides have good quality in the attack. So I think it's going to be a good end to end. Well, it might end up being cagey because it's Jose Mourinho. But yeah, 2-2.
I have gone for a Spurs win by 3-2.
This isn't funny.
Not even slightly. He's going to need to cut this bit out.
For context, James has been on the cans.
So Spurs winning by 3-2. Not much reason behind this. Mourinho getting one over on his old Manchester United is always nice to see. It'll be a harder task with Son, but let's get Ole out the door. Let's get him the earliest out the door at the top 6 managers this season. Let's get him the sack. He's out of his depth. He's a PE teacher. Time to go.
And then the final game of the weekend that we have predicting is Leicester versus the Hammers. West Ham, tragic team. They're very bad. So I have them losing 4-1 to Leicester. And then Connell went with a 3-0 comprehensive Leicester win.
I have taken a page out of James's book here, and I've gone for an exciting 6-2 Leicester victory.
Bold.
Well, I have gone... This is going to cap off my horrible prediction series. I'm going with a Hammers victory here. 3-1 to the Hammers. And Bowen's going to just come off to a flyer. Antonio. It's all going to go well for the Hammers.
Well, I think on that note, we'll call an end to the podcast. Thank you for listening. Obviously, you can check us out on our socials on Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and give us a like and a comment. And also, we're available on Spotify as well. So
and Apple Podcasts now as well, actually.
We're going up in the world, boys. Thanks for listening. That's been us. Have a good day.